Tom Wilda, thank you for joining us on the Illinois Channel, and we're going to be taking a look at the 5th District of Illinois congressional race, and you are running as a third-party candidate. You are in the Green Party candidate for the 5th District that is currently held by Congressman Mike Quigley, who is a Democrat. We also have a Republican, Tom Hansen, in that race, so we got two Toms running. But we wanted to hear from you and what you were proposing and why you're seeking the race. Do I take it that, is this your first time you've ever run for office?
It is.
And why did you feel strongly enough to become a candidate at this point?
Well, honestly, I was thinking about it for a while, but it's so difficult for third-party candidates or third parties to get on the ballot. There are some states where it's absolutely impossible. Because the signature requirement is so high, and it has been high in the here in Illinois.
How much is that? How many signatures did you have to get to be on the ballot?
Oh, it's in the vicinity of 30 or 40,000. I think you need about 25,000, but you need at least 30, between 30 and 50,000, because otherwise, you're going to get they're going to question, and you probably get a bunch of them thrown out for small things, and so you need about double what the law actually requires. But this year is different. Unlucky or lucky, I don't know, because of the COVID crisis, the courts, Illinois courts, have decided that requirement is unreasonable.
Huh.
And so since the Green Party has been active, run candidates in a lot of places over the last 16 years or so, and they have at various times gotten a good percentage of the vote, 5-10% of the vote, that this year the Green Party would be able to run candidates in most places without that requirement of all those signatures. So that relieved me because I'm a little older. I didn't know how I was going to be able to go out and get that many signatures. But with that requirement eliminated, I was able to run.
I didn't know about that. Yeah, let me quickly bring up just to show people. This is on the north side of Chicago. This is a map of the 5th District. What we're talking about. And of course, every single district, even if you don't live in it, is important around the country because it determines eventually who controls Congress, which party controls Congress. If you were to be elected, have you decided who you would? I presume you would caucus with the Democratic Party if the majority was in doubt.
I think that's true, that there would be more people in the Democratic Party that would be
of a similar mindset,
more
I guess,
according to my similar mindset.
Yeah.
Right. More according to my policy positions.
Well, let's not spend too much time on that. I do want to get into the issues.
Sure.
You obviously feel strongly it's not easy to run for Congress. It's not easy to ask people for money, especially during the Corona shutdown. It makes it difficult, in part because so many people, either their businesses are hurting or they're out of work. What are these issues that you feel so strongly about, and what are predominantly the issues that you want to champion?
Okay. Do you want me to just name them off, or do you want me to talk about them?
Maybe pick some of your top issues that you.
Well, the first one is Medicare for all. We're living in this COVID time, where at the very least, since so many people have lost their jobs, we had 1 million people apply for unemployment last week, 1 million new applications. Since so many people have lost their jobs, and health care insurance is tied to their jobs, people are also losing their health care. It's a great time for government to step up and say, during this crisis at least, we are going to make sure that everybody has the health care they need. They can't do that. They haven't done that, or they refuse to do that. That would be Medicare for all. And Medicare for all, in my thinking and in my belief, should be a permanent thing. We can improve Medicare. Now it only pays 80% of our bills, health bills. We could change that to make it 100%. No reason why we can't. And make that permanent for everybody. It would give everybody a tremendous amount of freedom, but also a tremendous amount of assurance that they wouldn't have to worry about their medical care if they lose their job. The other thing, it would give them a tremendous amount of ability to move around jobs. A lot of times people stay in jobs that they really hate because they need the medical care. They need the medical insurance. If they knew that they would have medical insurance no matter what they did employment-wise, they'd be free enough to look for other jobs, free enough maybe to start their own little business, to experiment in the economy in their own way. So it also caused it be a tremendous amount of freedom. The other thing about Medicare for all, because you hear this all the time, is you hear questions like this all the time on television. Should we spend $36 billion for Medicare for all, as if $36 billion was a lot of money? Well, we're already spending way over we're way past the 40 billions with these policies and programs that we have now, which are private. So we would actually be a savings for people. It would be a tremendous for people, as well as get them better health care. And we are the last or the only industrial country in the world not to have it. So it's a scandal that we don't. So that was one, Medicare for all. I would push it, and I would introduce it every chance I got. And hopefully I would find some people in Congress that agreed with me, and we'd push it. I know the Democratic controlled House and the leaders of the Democratic Party in the House are not proposing that. They don't want to propose that.
Why do you think, I started to ask you earlier, why are you running as a Green? Why didn't you run as a Democrat? But let's go back to the point you just made. Why do you think the leaders of the Democratic Party in the U.S. House are not proposing the Medicare for all?
Their donors don't want it. They are reliant on their donors, and their big donors, PAC money, hedge fund money, that comes from insurance providers, big pharma, and so forth. They don't want it. And when you take that amount of money, you sort of owe them, and that's the problem. So the problem with the House of Representatives, well, all representative government at this point, is that we're not representing the people of the districts, of our districts or states. We're representing the big donors. Some of them may not even be in those districts or states. And so that's the big problem, the money in politics, which brings me to another point. That's another one of my policy positions, is we get the money out of politics. Federal, I think all campaigns should be publicly financed. So we can develop commissions that determine how much money candidate might need to run in a certain district, and they get that money that's given to them. And they are prohibited, would be prohibited from or limited, very limited from taking private money, which is so they don't become obligated to those big donors. That's another issue. So Medicare for all, money out of politics, that's a big one. The ending of student debt. 1 out of 4, there's a survey that came out last week, 1 out of 4 people between the ages of 18 and 25 have contemplated suicide in the last year. 25%. And that's due to their desperation, their financial desperation, their desperation in terms of being able to look at the job market and not seeing good possibilities for work, being seeing only the possibility of getting in dead end, very low paying jobs, after spending a tremendous amount of money on college and having to borrow money on college. Just to give you a little idea, I went to college. I went to a private college here in Illinois in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and I ended up with like $1,000 in debt when I graduated, something like that. We were able to get Illinois grants and Illinois scholarships to pay most of the money. I was able to work, and working off money as I was going to school, I was basically able to pay for school. That is totally impossible now for kids. They're forced to borrow. They're forced to borrow money from the big banks that are insured by the government, and they're in hock for 20, 30 years after they graduate from college. So it's just totally unfair. So the elimination of student debt, the paying off of student debt by the government. Again, people will say, well, how are you going to afford all that? A few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, Congress didn't find any trouble in finding over $3 trillion for the banks and large corporations. They didn't really even ask anything of those corporations for all that money. All they said is, hey, listen, don't lay people off until October. And, you see the reports in the Tribune, all these big companies are getting ready for big layoffs in October. So they'll do the minimum. That $3 trillion was the largest upward movement of capital in human history. And it hardly got a peep on the news. So when we talk about where are we going to find all the money, there's plenty of money. We can find it. And I can talk a little later about that as another one of my campaign policies and proposals is the reform of the way we create money. I can talk about that in a few minutes. So the elimination of student debt would take a tremendous burden off our young people, and that burden would cause them to actually have some hope, actually increase their mental health. Better their mental health, so that we don't have to have 25% of them thinking about ending life already. Another one of my proposals is the improvement, enhancement of Social Security. I think it really should be look more like a real pension for people over 65. So these people would come out. I know I have a mother-in-law. She's 90 years old right now. And she gets maybe a few $100s a month, and of course we have to supplement everything for her, and she does get those supplements in terms of she's on Medicare, but she also gets supplemental food stamps or SNAP, which is being cut also, and she gets Medicaid to pay for prescriptions and so forth. But there's no reason why she should have to worry about living day to day. She's counting quarters. So I think Social Security can be improved so it can be a true pension, which brings me to another point. I'm for UBI, universal basic income, for every citizen, every adult citizen in the United States. And my proposal is a little bit larger. Andrew Yang, who's most famous for first proposing this in the Democratic debates, he proposed $1,000 a month. I see the supposed Fab Five, or whatever we're calling them, new congressmen and women in the Democratic Party, the left progressive, few of the left progressive people have proposed $2,000. And only during the COVID crisis. I proposed $3,000. What would that do? $36,000 a year. And as a consequence to getting that money, we can eliminate all kinds of means-tested programs. We can eliminate Medicaid for sure. Of course, Medicare for All is going to take care of that. But we could eliminate Medicaid. We could eliminate food stamps. We could eliminate Section 8 housing, probably. All these programs that cost a lot of money, that create a large bureaucracy, basically to tell people, a lot of people, hey, you don't qualify. Anyway.
Let me interject here, just because I'm sure we could talk for hours and time always goes by faster than we can. We won't be able to discuss every single issue that you have, but I will bring up, this is your website, and it's tomforthefifth.com. Tom for the fifth, with the fifth spelled out. You can see, if you're watching there, you can see the URL at the top. And on there, you do have your list of campaign issues that you want to bring up. Of course, it's always nice to hear you as we are listening to you. One thing I would also say is some people watch issues or interviews with third-party candidates, and they go, well, that guy's not going to win. Why should I pay attention? For a couple of reasons, and one, the primary reason is sometimes people have just good ideas. Sometimes they don't. That's up for you to decide as voters and viewers. I will share that when I interviewed Barack Obama, who was running for the U.S. Senate back in 2003 for the March 2004 primary, I didn't think he was going to be the nominee either. It was going to be another fellow who had $40 million to spend. So, one, A, you never know, and B, having covered Congress, I will say, some of the things, Tom, that you were saying, you may be surprised that I think even some conservative Republicans would agree with you in some ways. And the problem is, when we have members of either party just totally dismissing ideas, and saying we're not going to work with the Republicans or we're not going to work with the Democrats, then you never get anywhere. And often you find that there is a blended model that can be put together. As you said, some of these entitlement programs like Medicaid and food stamps and the rest are very expensive, and we spend billions of dollars on those. I'm not supporting necessarily or opposing what you're saying. I'm just pointing it out that the Illinois Channel's role is to bring candidates and give them a platform in which they can discuss these issues. Tom, I will say, when Adlai Stevenson, Governor Stevenson, ran for president twice, he didn't come close to beating Eisenhower, and I don't think anyone expected that he would. But quite a number of his ideas that he had put forward were actually adapted by John F. Kennedy when Kennedy came in, including the Peace Corps, which was a Adlai Stevenson idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can propose these ideas. At least we get them out there. Now we can start talking about them. But you're absolutely right. Conservatives are worried about the budget. Actually, I'm somewhat worried about the budget, too. And we could talk about, well, different ways of dealing with it. But yes, we got to be able to dialogue about these things, absolutely. And I don't want to turn. I want to consider every good idea, every idea that's good, because I think we're in a crisis time in this country. As I said, I'll give you another stat. I said 25% of people from 18 to 25 have thought about suicide in the last year. 1 out of 10% of all Americans have thought about suicide in the past year. That would be around between 30 and 35 million people. So there's a lot of desperation out there. There's a lot of worry. There's a lot of desperation. We can see it erupting in violence. We're a powder keg. We need some of these incidents, especially with the police, have just caused a gigantic expression of outrage that has led to these gigantic protests, and also, unfortunately, some of the looting. So I think we want a safe country. We want a safe country in which everybody can work and everyone through their work can create themselves and receive compensation that is fair to their work, and then be able to pursue happiness. They want to have health care. They want to have education for their kids. They want to have decent and safe housing. These are all the things I think we would want to work for. Both conservatives and Democrats, or both conservatives and progressives. And I think we have may have different ideas about how to get there, but hey, let's talk.
Time's always
let's talk
short, but at least we've
and
already
not
been
call
going
each
for
other
about
names.
20 minutes here. I don't mean to cut you, but
Yeah,
we don't do the 7-second sound bites, and we don't do just the 5 minutes where your time is up after 5 minutes. So we appreciate the time that
Okay.
we're giving you. Before, I meant to ask you earlier. Let's tell the people what was your profession? What did you do before you were a candidate for Congress?
I was a social worker. I spent out of college. I started working in an orphanage.
Do we still have
And then
orphanages, by the way?
We don't. We don't. In fact, that was the end. That was in 73, 74. At the time, they were converting or trying to eliminate these large orphanages and going to foster care. So I sort of got in on the end of that. I did work in a place that had a number of cottages, and we had probably about 900 kids at the time, and they were getting away from that and going to foster care. I think by 1975 or so that had basically been completed, and all the larger orphanages had been closed.
That actually came up the other day in my conversation. My father, the pandemic of 1918, actually killed my grandfather when he had just turned 34. So my father, when he was 9 years old, went into an orphanage, and I came up the other day and I thought, I don't even know if orphanages are still around. So now I know.
No, they're not. Yeah. Yeah. I ended up getting involved in the 1980s. Refugees coming up from Central America during the wars, basically the war in El Salvador, and later the war that occurred during the 1980s, the Contras in Honduras and Nicaragua. And I decided that if I was going to really work with these people, I had to get more into the culture. So I went to Mexico, and I studied Spanish and culture there, and then wound up going to Peru and working in basically community organizing in some of the shanty towns south of Lima for about 5 years, sort of getting communities together so that we could look for resources. We were built some medical clinics, small. These are small places, and pre-education, preschool programs, along with nutritional programs, soup kitchens. We can call them soup kitchens then, but and those kinds.
Let me, if I might, Tom, I'm sorry, I just want to say, make sure we get this in. Here's your website again. It's tomforthefifth.com. I believe you said that, first of all, it has your policy positions on there and a little bit of your biography. And if people want to write to you and send you an email, I think you can get emails from them on that. Are there any other social media platforms in which your campaign is engaged?
I am every other social media, Instagram and Facebook, and the TikTok. I think I'm on that one, and they're all the same. It's at Tom Wilda 2020.
Tom Wilda.
At
Okay.
Tom Wilda 2020. So please, take a look at those. You can also go there. If you go to one of those sites, you can get to the website from there. I also, have a little donation page. I haven't raised much money. I don't expect to raise a lot of money. I'm going to try and get the word out as best I can without it. But I don't take any money from corporations or PACs or anything like that. So, if you could send me a few bucks, I know it's a hard time, so I understand if you can't. But
You
if
know,
you
it's
can't send
interesting
me a
how
few
much
bucks,
money. Two quick stories. One, Adlai Stevenson. I know the former senator. He was on our board. Adlai Stevenson the third. He told me his father didn't spend $1 to get the Democratic nomination for president, if you can believe that.
Wow, wow.
And I think it was
Wow.
1958. There was, I forget the man, but I met a candidate for Congress actually who was elected, and he spent only $5,000 to be elected to Congress in 1958. And even adjusting for inflation, that would probably be not more than $50,000 today. And of course,
Yeah.
congressional candidates typically are spending multiple millions of dollars to be elected. And it does show you the influence of business, because that money is not raised by people giving $10 and $20. Typically, that's not the
Right.
case, at least.
Right.
Tom Wilda, we appreciate your time, and thank you for joining us. And again, people can go to your website and read
Yeah.
for more, but good luck to you, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thanks. And I really ask people, go to the website. If you have any question, please send me an email. I will get back to you on that. I didn't get a chance to talk about sort of a more obscure issue, but a very, very important one, which is monetary reform. So please go to the website, take a look at that.
As you know, every one of these
And,
issues we could spend a seminar on. I mean, they're
absolutely,
they're too complex to get into it in depth. Thank you again, Tom Wilda.
Absolutely. Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
for
Okay.
watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.